The firework launcher was never meant to be used as a weapon. It's supposed to bring communities together in celebration and light up the sky with pretty lights. But in today's video, I'm going to use it to destroy things, to claim lives. Also, since it's very tricky to obtain, I'll be using a mod menu to give it myself whenever I need it. So let's find out. Can you beat GTA 5 using only a firework launcher? It all starts with a bank heist, where we intimidate the hostages by aiming our makeshift firework launcher made out of Pringle cans and some duct tape. Everything goes fine until Michael decides to let himself be taken advantage of by a guard. When it comes to this guy, it's very simple. A bullet must enter his dome. In our case, our weapon is very slow, and even launching one directly at him only spooks him into shooting Michael. I tried multiple different angles, but the problem wasn't the angle. It was the speed at which we don't kill him. Rockstar is known for having these do as I say or else moments, so yeah, the firework launcher just doesn't have the properties we need to complete this section. Things do get better once we step outside. The firework launcher is best described as an RPG light. It launches a slow missile, causes a weak explosion, and sometimes goes through solid objects. But when it does land, it always guarantees a kill. So while overall it is kinda cheap, it's pretty to look at, which in my eyes even stings out. Then our getaway car gets clipped by a train, Brad gets shot, Michael gets shot, Trevor runs off, the end. Well, actually no, that event took place 9 years ago. As we complete the prologue, the focus switches to Franklin and Lamar, who are doing a repossession job. The first one goes well, and as we return the cars to the dealership, we see Simeon use very strange closing tactics.
Only the weak use their brains, the strong use their balls.
What? However, our second job doesn't go so well as we're caught trespassing in gang territory. Also, Lamar may or may not have killed one of the gang members. Also, I may or may not have killed a cat. Who am I kidding? That thing is definitely dead. We cover the whole alleyway in pretty lights, and before the guy on the bike can make an escape, we blast him and catch him with the shockwave. We go to repo yet another car, but this time Franklin gets caught lacking by Michael. He orders us to renovate the car dealership and make a drive-through window. Then the focus shifts to Michael. Simeon eats a point-blank firework, catches fire, and after rolling around for a few seconds, a cutscene plays. Then Michael goes to take back his stolen boat, and there's a part where we have to shoot a guy off Franklin. But as I've already mentioned, the projectile is very slow, so by the time I exit the vehicle and fire one, the boat has already made enough distance for the explosion to land nowhere near it. After half an hour of trying a bunch of different things, I finally find an opening. I crash into a car to stop a bit faster, and using the full power of my supercomputer brain, I calculate the speed and trajectory of the moving boat. Then I position the launcher at just the right angle so that the projectile is on direct course to collide with it. An explosion happens and slightly tickles the guy we're supposed to hit. Now, I'm telling you this because I rewatched the zoomed in footage, but I'm gonna be completely honest, in the moment I had no clue what was going on. Like, I crashed the car thinking I'll take another shot at him right here. And when I saw there was no guy on board, I full sent it. I thought it was a divine intervention. Then we catch General Fatass. However, Franklin for some reason refuses to jump. But thankfully, there's a checkpoint. We try again, and this time Franklin finds the courage to jump, and the next thing we do is bust Michael's wife with the tennis coach. Those private lessons got a little bit too private. We destroy a part of his house, and then some Mexican gangsters try to chase us. We introduce them to the El Firework launcher, and even though every single one of them passed away, Madrazo still manages to locate us.
Got a question for you.
Now that's a trick question. Michael goes several $1 million into debt, and to distract himself, he takes his son to the beach. To lift his spirit, I shoot a firework, but Jimmy gets spooked. What the f is bro, a small chihuahua? We make fun of our chud son by flipping him off right at the finish line.
That's it. Number one.
Wait, what? How? I was in front. Anyways, when Michael was asked would he rather have a gay son or a thought daughter, he said, I don't discriminate, and chose both. We collect the daughter and get rid of the guys chasing us by outspeeding them. Then head over to Lester to do something about the debt we owe. He asks a favor for a favor, so we go to the store, get dressed, do some unpaid labor, rig a phone to blow, and then head home. Life Invader, more like Live Leak. We switch to Franklin and Lamar, who were in the middle of a meeting with a fella we tried to kidnap a few missions back. Surprise, surprise, it doesn't go well. With the space being so tight and fire spreading everywhere, a single firework would take out at least 2 enemy gang members. While waiting for the flames to stop spreading and messing up the pathing for Lamar and Stretch, we lounge a few out of the window. Pretty. Then comes the moment when Lamar gets ganked by the ops, and I have to find a very delicate spot. No, not that spot. The spot I was looking for was the one where the shockwave would only hurt the enemies. Literally, the first time I managed to get the ops away from Lamar, he decides to walk directly into my crosshair, sending us all the way back to the beginning of the mission. Also, our guys are fireproof. When we get to the warehouse section, Lamar decided to play whack-a-mole by pretending to be the mole. We then get to the helicopter encounter, which to my surprise went down in a single shot. Was it scripted? Was it a coincidence? I think it was one sick joke because it gave me false hope. The helicopter that spawned literally 10 seconds later was indestructible. No matter how many fireworks I launched at it, it would not go down. At the time, I didn't know it yet, but the helicopter was going to become the bane of my existence. For now, luckily, this one can be skipped. After the 3 musketeers make their escape, we switch to Michael, who along with Lester is surveying a jewelry store for the upcoming heist. I go with a smart approach, and the next thing we have to do is steal some vans. Apparently, the Bugstar people have their own security guard. Oh no, a Prius! I'm terrified!
I'm in my mum's car.
Uh-oh. I don't see him.
Yeah, no sh. When it was time to take the valuables, the explosion didn't break the display cases. And, well, we need to break the display cases. The reason I'm bringing this up is that the game usually reverts your weapon back to the M4, meaning the action technically isn't performed with the firework launcher. So I was genuinely surprised when the animation played and Michael was still holding the firework launcher. As it turns out, that pretty much sums up this weapon. It kept surprising me and leaving me staring at the screen in confusion, just thinking, huh? We then bag the rest of the jewelry, begin the escape, pick up the dropped baggie, and help get rid of the pursuing police. Then the focus switches to Trevor, who is in the middle of, well, murder. I thought maybe getting rid of the woman would change anything in this mission, since how else would they know we killed Johnny? But then I told myself that was wrong, and I should use a firework launcher and not a car. However, nothing major changes apart from a bit of dialogue. When we arrive at the bikers base, they felt extra accurate today and caused a few problems. As we deal with the bikers, we also punish Ron for, well, being called Ron. We then eviscerate Ortega and go try to close an international business deal with some Chinese businessman. Trevor then shows the Chinese businessman a freezer. They, of course, have those at home, but I believe he was just being racist. And right after, the Ortega boys come seeking revenge. Since fireworks are a big part of Chinese celebrations, I'm sure they felt right at home. We protect our building from both sides, light up the sky in celebration, and go release the Chinese businessman. Next thing we do is raid an airstrip. Unfortunately, the firework launcher doesn't have the properties to complete this section. It's simply too loud, so we rely on an actual sniper to pass this part. Then move in and clean up the airstrip before jumping onto a plane. Again, that day they were extra accurate, which took this part way longer than it should have. We then pollute the ocean by dropping some garbage into it, and Trevor's hit with the news that the Chinese businessman decided to seek out other opportunities. And this is exactly why they send those rejected rejected job applications in letter form. So we go to the O'Neill Ranch, and again, these tweakers caused a few problems. But we get rid of them, starting with Ernie, Earl, Dale, Doyle, Daryl, Dalton, Don, until we reach the meth lab and destroy it. Then Trevor gets Michael's whereabouts. But before heading into Los Santos, we once again stop by the biker place and finish off the remaining ones. The trailers are not destroyable by the Firework launcher. So we have to find a middle ground by placing a sticky bomb and blowing it up with a firework. We then stop and get an overview of the city and launch a few rockets, indicating we're nearby. Kinda like a bat signal, only this one indicates things are about to get much worse. And it did get much worse for Laszlo once Michael and Trevor got reunited, because we made the full dance for our entertainment. Then Michael gets a call from Dave, and Dave makes his problem our problem. Inside the morgue, we confirm the suspect isn't there, then try to make our escape. While the spreading fire was advantageous in certain moments, sometimes it would completely obscure the path, and I would just have to stand there and wait. Hopefully they'll let you use the fire extinguisher in 6, otherwise that game is not living up to all the hype. We then break the window and make our escape. Then Dave introduces us to the rest of the FIB boys, and we go extract Mr. K out of the IAA building. When the sniper section came up, I fully expected to take another L, but when I switched to the launcher, the game didn't remove the zoom, so I was able to shoot from a lot closer than I normally could. I'm pretty sure I hit Michael and Mr. K, but they took it like champions and got right back up. Then at some point, the whole office became engulfed in flames, and all the enemies burned to death. When the focus switches to Michael, we give him a firework launcher and he cleans up the few agents that are left. When the helicopters appeared, I still didn't know if I could actually shoot them down. My prior experience was one went down and the other didn't. So in my head, it was still a 50-50. And oh boy, did I figure it out during this mission. The answer is, it's nuanced. Yes, I can shoot them down, but it's really slow. If the sequence is timed, which this one is, I simply run out of time and the helicopter ends up using lethal force. And yes, we have Michael on gun duty, but he refuses to shoot the helicopter, bothering Franklin. So you could probably guess what happened next. I tried ramming it with my helicopter. 40 minutes later, I finally managed to lower its altitude just enough for it to stop shooting Franklin. Then it decided to explode, and we left the other 2 helicopters to Michael. Now, our newly extracted friend has some information. He also has a nasty toothache, and since dental work is expensive in America, we do a favor for a favor. While Trevor is left with the altruistic deed of helping others, Michael tries to figure out a target for the FIB. I again thought this would be an out of reach for the firework launcher, and again I was left staring at my screen like, huh? Now our DIY dental project gets botched, and we have to send Mr. K to an actual doctor. And again, since this is America, it's cheaper to send him to another country to get his work done. Meanwhile, Michael is doing yoga, and since he's not very good at it, his wife leaves him. In the next mission, the gang goes to buy drugs. The seller tries to out-hustle us, but since Trevor is a level 50 mafia boss, he spots the hustle. Compared to everything else, blasting through the hood was the easy part. Trying to climb this hill was absolute cheeks. Oh my god, it was so bad. The helicopter that chased us on the beach got smacked so hard it noped out completely.
Bye, have a great time.
The poor thing got so traumatized the next time I pulled out the launcher, it started having flashbacks. Lamar got so tired of me dying on that hill because at one point he just said, "Bye homie," and dipped. Like, where's bro going? Nah, but for real, that unironically helped me because they spread out, making it much easier for me to get into a car. Then Trevor does some unpaid labor and scouts a future heist for us. I went with the offshore approach, for which we'll need a cargo bob and a submarine. I've always hated how after hiding the submarine, Floyd takes the only car in the vicinity, so I let him know. But even after he got out, the car was still inaccessible. This is for everyone whose time you've wasted. During the mission, all we had to do was fly, and when Meriwether showed up, we let Franklin deal with them. But since it's a weapon of mass destruction, destruction, we have to return it. This scene reminds me of toddlers in a mirror maze. Then Lester tasks Franklin with assassinating a CEO, though in our case it was more of an explosive ambush. Since we did such a great job for the FIB, they give us another job. We gather everything we need for the heist, and once it starts, the launcher is too weak to blow open the back of the armored van. So once again, we find the middle ground by placing a sticky bomb and shooting it with the launcher. What followed was probably the unluckiest I've been so far. First, a skill issue on my part, then a news agent disrespectfully drive-bys me. I run out of fireworks and Michael gets clipped from behind. I somehow got too far away even though it was fine the previous attempts. Another skill issue, and one of the news guys snipes me from the other side of the map. All that just to get to the helicopter part. I'm not sure whether it's the fire or the explosion causing the damage, but the rotor area seemed to be the only part actually registering hits. And this is what I meant when I said I can shoot down helicopters. It's just very, very slow. Then when it was time to destroy the trash truck, the friendly neighborhood watch got involved because I caused a disturbance. Michael goes to deliver the loot we just stole from the armored vans to Devin, who offers a favor for a favor. Steal some cars and meet a movie producer Michael has been glazing. When we boost the cars on Devin's wish list, our reward is a high five because of a technicality. Actually, the deal was 5 cars, you brought only 2. Then Franklin and Trevor fly in with a chopper, chase the Z-Type, steal the Z-Type, and deliver the Z-Type. All while Michael goes to Solomon, who sends us after an actor who's been acting up. No, actually, he wasn't acting at all. He refused to work and now we have to reconvince him. Since our weapon is very loud and attracts attention, we have to sneak past the guards. And when it came time to beat up Rocco, no matter how gently I tap him with the shockwave, the big tough guy would fold. Even the fire damage made him fold. Actually, that's not true. I don't know what happened here. I saw a Dark Viper short and it was absolutely doable with fire. So I went back and the only thing I changed was switching to fists once Rocco caught fire. And boom, the cutscene played. Then Michael gets a call from Madrazo, who has a problem only people like us can fix. And that problem involves shooting down an aircraft. I tried switching to the launcher, but the game wouldn't let me. Besides, I don't think we have the range anyways. We damaged the plane, and as it falls from the sky, Trevor follows it. Then he incinerates any survivors, Michael destroys the van, and Trevor hits him with the news that he kidnapped Madrazo's wife.
Oh no!
While that's happening, Franklin grabs another car for Devin, and we instantly switch back to Trevor, who causes a minor turbulence by flying a crop duster into a cargo plane. Tight spaces like these are great because it's easier to hit enemies with the shockwave, but that also means I have less room to move around. Trevor panics once he gets the flight deck because they send fighter jets to intercept us. We unfortunately don't make it back to Sandy Shores with the cargo plane as the jets shoot us down. Trevor comes back to the trap house to meet up with Michael and the FIB boys, who call for another heist, for which we'll need
Money!
And when you need money, you go to the bank. The alarm wouldn't go off from the explosion, but once the fire spread, it triggered. The gang then monitors police radio activity, and once the plan is devised, Trevor gets a call from Franklin saying that some of the O'Neill family members have regenerated and are coming for revenge. They have a bit of an accident, and after crashing, they scatter through the woods. If we don't let the swimming guy wander off, we have the necessary range to hit him. But the second guy is simply out of range. I spent 15 minutes trying to hit him, but he just wouldn't walk close enough. So the sniper rifle had to be used on him. The third guy pulls out an RPG, so we switch to Franklin and show him a real man's weapon. None of that silly stuff. We then go do the Polito Bay bank heist. Once we extract the money, we're met with heavy resistance and, more importantly, a helicopter. This one again is timed. If we don't get rid of it fast enough, the mission fails. I tried pushing it away with the shockwave so it wouldn't have a line of sight of our crew, but that did absolutely nothing. I was about to give up until another Dark Viper short found me and showed me this strategy, which involved delaying the dialogue so the helicopter timer never starts and our crew can shoot it down. W upside down, man. We push forward and level anything standing in our way. Fences, news guys, army guys, our guys again. Okay, it may have been very late. Franklin decides to pick up the slowest possible vehicle for the getaway, but it's fine because they sent in the silly squad. We blast through the chicken factory and make our grand escape, and then literally go rob the same train that helped us escape. Sorry Thomas, these streets are treacherous. Once Trevor derails the train and some of the containers land in the river, we switch over to Michael, who blasts the door open using the launcher. We then switch back to Trevor to defend Michael. And the helicopters that appeared were the good, destroyable helicopters, not those evil ones that stress me out. The snipers were also within range, which meant only the parapoopers were left. I usually get lucky and they die on arrival, but not this time. Once they got into position, they were basically untouchable, so we had to prepare them a landing party. Once the parapoopers were dealt with and we hit the last hidden sniper on the bridge,
Let that keep you.
we started the getaway. All I did was use Trevor's ability to tank the incoming shots for as long as possible before switching to Michael and speeding off. Then comes the heist we've been preparing for. We head over to Humane Labs and do inhumane things. And no, I don't mean execute innocent civilians. No, the fire! It will reach the chimps, not the chimps. After the nerve toxin has been secured, we take a breather and scout the Union depository for yet another heist. Then, after a long day of scouting, Trevor pops in for an unexpected visit and mid-conversation figures out everything regarding the North Yankton incident. In North Yankton, Michael fails a quick time event and gets ambushed by a Chinese triad. After doubling the body count in that graveyard and making it to the car, Michael gets captured. Back in Los Santos, Lamar boosts the last car for Devin, and we try to deliver it until the police try to pull us over. Franklin, brother, the truck is standing still. Getting out of the car and trying to hit them with a firework was not the play. We force-stopped the truck and with it the police. And it still wasn't exactly easy since I had to be wary of the truck itself. The bystanders made sure to fulfill their civic duty by smacking the corrupt cops. Once the cars have been successfully delivered, Franklin and Lester figure out something is wrong with Michael, and we go ask Trevor since he went MIA after meeting with him in North Yankton. Trevor tells us the Chinese got him. He also asks that perhaps if you're enjoying the video, you could hit that like button. Lester gives us an app to track down Michael's phone, which leads us to a meat packing plant. Michael's extraction starts with me dying to a car explosion twice, and then repeatedly dying inside because this is the worst possible weapon to fucking attempt this mission. When we finally reach Michael, this guard shoots him because we're not fast enough to kill him. Literally the first mission guard all over again. But this time we're given the freedom to move. So we run him down until he switches his attention away from Michael. Then execute him. We swap over to Michael and we... why do the rockets look like they use MS Paint to travel? When a guy jumped Franklin, I was fully expecting a mission fail. You know, shockwave and all, but no. Michael then frees himself with the firework launcher. We eliminate the rest of them in the factory and then cut off the group that was about to chase us. After all that, the FIB boys are catching some heat at the bureau. So this calls for yet another heist. Man, they should have called this game Grand Heist 5. Then Michael stalks a janitor to get his uniform, reunites the family and goes to therapy. And meanwhile, Franklin delivers the blueprints to the FIB building. I go with the roof entry and as the name implies, our crew enters through the roof. Inside, the door to the server room is of course locked. The game hands us a sticky bomb to solve this problem. It seemed unlikely, but I had to try it with the launcher. Like, why is it so inconsistent? Once the fire stops burning, we begin the extraction and fight off the incoming news and FIB agents. When it comes time to escape, the problem is that our guys aren't flame resistant like they were in previous missions. No, quite the opposite, they're stupid enough to stand in the fire. So it's very important that I shoot at non-flammable surfaces such as walls and ceilings. Of course, sometimes the angle is horrible and I die. I anticipated this mission to be cheeks, so I hired a better gunman, and I definitely got my money's worth from this guy. Once we rappel down, an evil helicopter appears, and that thing just wouldn't stop moving, making everything more difficult. It eventually landed, just not in working order. I then again got my money's worth back because our expensive driver managed to get us away without any attention. Surprise, surprise, the FIB boys were not men of their word. And our meeting turns into a standoff, turns into a setup, turns into a military convention. As we blast through countless agents and Meriwether, a helicopter pins Michael down. Thankfully, it wasn't an evil helicopter and Trevor was able to shoot it down. We then clear a few more fellas before making our way to the parking lot and escaping. Trevor then somewhat makes peace with Michael and the Union Depository is back on the menu. Michael then heads to the movie studio and oh no, Devin and Molly are trying to destroy the film. Molly takes the tape and runs off. Things kinda spiral out of control, so much that half of the police department ends up chasing her. Alright fellas, I totally get it now. Molly then unfortunately gets turned into a forbidden smoothie, and while all that was happening, Franklin's ex comes over informing us that Lamar got ganked and is being held hostage at a sawmill. While clearing the path to Lamar, one guy thought he was him. He died thinking. On our warpath to Lamar, the guy keeping him hostage got claimed by the fire, and the mission just got stuck. I don't know. Then literally on the next attempt, I got taken out by a car. Man, the Decepticons are working overtime. The next time I got to Lamar, I let Franklin shoot the fella off him. Once everyone gets out safely, it's time to attend the movie premiere. But it gets ruined once Devin implies our family's in danger. When we get to Michael's house, we see his wife being held at gunpoint. Another hostage situation. So original. After trying a million different angles, I finally found the optimal one. Then we ran upstairs where the daughter was being held hostage. And on this one, I just couldn't find the optimal angle. The room was so small and every time I failed, Amanda made this face. I even tried wallbanging the guy through the wall from outside, but that didn't work either. So I concede this section. Then I take my anger out on the remaining guys who enter our house. Shortly after, we gather the gang to plan the Union Depository heist. I select the subtle approach and go steal the police stingers and pimp our getaway cars. Everything goes according to plan. We hijack the cars, get inside the depository, load in the gold, and as we're moving into our getaway cars, Meriwether appears. We disturb the local homeless, but I'm sure they forgave us since we left so many cooked carcasses to snack on. Then drive off, and once inside the tunnel, we load the cars into the trucks. One fella almost sneaks in, but luckily the doors closed just in time. As we're waiting for the gold to melt, Devin appears and suggests Franklin kills Michael. Earlier, the FIB told him to kill Trevor. Despite all that, I went with the friendship option and chose neither. When we get to Lester, he Uno reverses Devin and Steve and suggests we go after them instead. We call in the crew and Lamar into the foundry, lure the FIB and Meriwether by making our location known, and then just start blasting. At one point, after cycling through all three characters and giving each of them the Firework launcher, we all started blasting and the foundry was covered in pretty lights. Then at some point Trevor goes MIA, and as Michael we head to his last known location. Turns out he was just hiding and wanted to see if Michael cared. He did. Friendship restored. The outside section wasn't exactly easy and got me a couple of times, but then I switched to Trevor and abused his ability. Once the foundry is clear, we set our sights on Steve, Devin, Mr. Chang, and Stretch. I go after Mr. Chang since he's the hardest. Him being in a vehicle doesn't do us any favors, but thankfully when their car caught fire, he decided to get out. After I eliminated a few of the goons, Mr. Chang was next. Then we switched to Michael, launch a rocket into a group of thugs and eliminate Stretch. Next, we switch to Trevor and launch one directly into the Ferris wheel cabin. It turns into a sizzling pan and Steve is no more. When it came to Devin, I walked while executing his security. I must have been terrifying to them. Seeing a man with a makeshift firework launcher tanking bullets and just nonchalantly claiming lives one by one. With the guards being dealt with, Devin was left exposed. Literally, Lil Bro got abducted in his Calvin Kleins. The gang then has a little goodbye speech, and with Devin gone, the game is complete. Overall, considering how gimmicky the firework launcher is, it performed way better than I expected. There were only a few sections I wasn't able to do. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.